All right. So who all is presenting? So Celeste, Daisy, is that it?
And Sarah.
And
Oh,
Sarah.
there. Are you guys able to have like your own computer screen? Because I think it's a little challenging to share like that.
Oh, can you come
Oh
like
yeah, no,
closer?
no, no. I'm just
It's
off
ju- it's just
camera
she's
really
off
quick.
camera because she was eating, but
I'm
we're
finishing
but we're
here.
like this.
Oh, she means
Yeah.
like, can you guys each have your own device? So that way they can see each of you guys when you're talking.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we can do that.
Yeah.
Okay, well
Yeah,
just
because it's going to be it's it's to the
the on,
community and things like that. So we need to kind of
the only thing is that when she speaks, since we're in the same room, when she speaks, it's
It
gonna
might
sound weird.
echo.
So we're gonna have to like click
Just
in and
turn
out
off. So what you guys can do if you guys, because you guys can be sitting right next to each other and it'll still pick up the audio from
from one
the
of
other
them.
one.
yeah.
So just
Mhm.
Gotcha.
make sure
Okay.
just don't connect to the audio on the second device. So when it asks you, do you want to connect to the audio? Don't.
Okay. Do you want to?
And then you'll just leave it unmuted and volume on the other device.
Okay. So go ahead and get yours, and then
I can put over here.
yeah.
Great. So our interpretation has begun. We also have this now on our YouTube page, and I see that we have some families that are joining us. So Ms. Ramirez or Ms. Quintero, would you mind sharing your screen, please?
Oh yes, absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you to everybody who's joining us. We are going to get started in just about a minute or so. We're going to give some time for our community to join us. You all have received a text blast that was sent out by us. Just a quick reminder to make sure that, for our very busy families, just one extra reminder of this good conversation that we'll be having. So if you give us maybe until about 5:04, we will get started. Thank you for being here. Hi, Susan. Good to see you.
Hello.
Hi there. All right. So I just received the text notification. So again, give us about one more minute and then we're going to get started. Our conversation today, we're very excited about it. It's positive parenting strategies. And we were able to partner, and we're very thankful for the partnership of our special education department leaders. Specifically, we have Miss Daisy Ramirez, Miss Sarah Anderson, and Miss Celeste Quintero. You can see all the letters behind their name, which is very impressive, but also just to show you the level of expertise that we have in the room and in the district. So I've told you time and time again to all our families who have been coming to these for some time now, just how proud I am of the Auburn Unified School District staff to show all of the support that our students have. So with that, let me go ahead and officially open up the meeting by saying just thank you. Thank you, parents, for being here. We know that there are tons of great programs in the school district. We have about 1,000, give or take, certificated staff members, so like teachers, counselors, school psychologists. We have about 1,000 classified staff members, our paraprofessionals that make the schools really function and work. We have hundreds of programs. We have just so much good stuff. But what we are missing and what would be kind of the downfall of student success is we would be missing you. So thank you for our partnership. We can't do this work without you. So on behalf of the Board of Education, on behalf of the entire Albert Unified School District staff, thank you for being here. I'd like to invite Miss Michelle Sebastian to give us a warm welcome. Miss Michelle Sebastian is the leader, the director, the one and only leader of Special Education Department. So Michelle, thank you.
Yeah, good evening. And I am just so excited to see that the participation numbers are just going up. And so I'm so excited. And thank you for joining us this evening. I know that you guys have so much going on with dinner time and, nighttime routines and all of that stuff. So to be able to take some time to be able to meet with us, we're super excited. This presentation, I'm really excited because we have an awesome behavioral department team. We have 3 dedicated BCBAs, Judy I always say her name wrong, Judy Mc, oh my gosh, I don't want to pronounce it wrong.
Judy.
Makinich.
Yes,
Makinich.
Makinich. And I always say it wrong, and then I feel so bad for doing that. So I don't want to say her name wrong. She wasn't able to be here, but she's one of our BCBAs. And then, of course, we have Daisy Ramirez, and then we have Sarah Anderson. And so they will be talking about some great behavioral strategies. And then we have 2 awesome marriage and family therapists, Celeste Quintero, who's here today. And then we also have David Smith. He's not able to be here today, but he supports our high school and Celeste supports our middle school. So we're super excited to get this presentation going, and then definitely chime in. There's opportunities throughout the presentation to ask any questions or feedback, statements, opinions. We would love to be able to answer them. If we can't answer them today, we will definitely get your information and then follow up with you. So I will hand it off to, I think it's Celeste. Are you
Yeah.
first? Okay.
You're on. Thank you. We're very excited to know how to manage, as I just put it in our reminder, these big behaviors from our little people, big behaviors, little bodies. How do we help our parents help their kids? Thank you. Welcome.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me. I'm honored to be here. Yes, so our topic today is positive parenting strategies. And so we wanted to just kind of start off with what is positive parenting? So it's a parenting style that includes these categories. So respect, empathy, encouragement, communication, warmth, consistency, and nonviolence. So that just pretty much means when we are thinking of parenting our children and providing guidance for them, we always operate from a lens and a point of view of like, we want to respect our children, right? We want to respect the fact that they are little humans as well, that are learning to navigate the world. They are learning how to do relationships. They're learning rules, whether that be within the home and in our society, how to get along with others. So we always want to offer the same respect that we want our kids to give us as well. We also want to offer empathy. So that just means when they're going through their big emotions and they're really struggling with, any kind of feeling, whether that's sadness, excitement, frustration, we want to try and address them as if we can place ourselves in their shoes, right? So when they're feeling really frustrated, it's just being able to be aware that that's a big feeling for them to feel. And we want to be empathic to that. So pretty much just place ourselves in their shoes. We want to offer encouragement when we catch positive behavior. We catch them doing things that are helpful around the house or at school or within the community. Those are the things we want to highlight. So we want to encourage that. We want to pinpoint that. Communication, very important in positive parenting. So being open to discussing feelings and discussing what's working, what's not working. Warmth, very important that our children feel that they are supported, they are loved, they're cared for. Consistency is another key component, and that has to do with our consistency to not only implement all of these items A through G, but also consistency when it comes to the discipline that we give. So discipline is oftentimes setting clear limits and boundaries and providing natural and logical consequences. So for example, if, my kid doesn't pick up their toys, and they are left around the house, then a natural consequence would be, that if they lose it, well, it's lost because they couldn't, they didn't put it away, they didn't store it in an appropriate place. And then nonviolence has to do with just making sure that when we do offer discipline, we are taking into consideration all of these other items: respect, empathy, encouragement, communication. All of these are coming into place. So we are helping to develop their sense of identity, their sense of belonging, their sense of problem solving, without shaming, without belittling, and without any kind of violence. The focus of positive parenting is on being compassionate and firm. So we are compassionate, but we're also firm in the limits that we set and the expectations that we give our children. So there are boundaries, and we're teaching them how to do that. Benefits of positive parenting, there's tons of research. And at the end, I've attached some articles that will be helpful if you like to find out more information about this. So in childhood, when parents use positive parenting, it helps children to do better in school, reduces behavioral problems, and strengthens their overall mental health. And the reason why is because they're learning that they can be independent. They're learning to resolve problems. They're learning to advocate for themselves through the example that they see from us as parents that we're giving them. In adolescence, when we're using positive parenting, and we've used it consistently from childhood up until adolescence, there's lots of research that suggests that positive parenting contributes to better functioning in the brain regions that are associated with emotions and cognition during this adolescent phase. Once our children have reached adulthood, if we've been consistent with the positive parenting, there is also research that suggests long-term benefits of receiving positive parenting and being a part of that as a child includes better relationships as a whole, a positive mental health, and a well-being, and overall well-being within the adult stage of life. Part of the way that we can maintain positive parenting and that we can work towards positive parenting is by creating and maintaining routines. So that's routines in the home, because it starts there. So why routines are important is because they are the foundation for mental stability. So when a child experiences that there is a routine, and routines can be interesting because oftentimes I think we think a routine means something we have to stick to and it's a hard and fast rule. That's not necessarily the case. Routines are guidelines. It's a structure that we have within the home environment, but life happens, right? So sometimes maybe we're running a little bit later, to do an activity. Maybe that's dinner time, right? Maybe we have dinner at 6 p.m. and something came up because life happened. And so we couldn't do dinner at 6, but we have it at 7, right? It's not so much the idea of doing it at a specific time as it is within a time frame so that children learn to develop stability and consistency through the idea that, okay, it happens around this time. Now, one of the positive things about creating and maintaining routines is that it does help to reduce stress and anxiety in children. It also enhances sleep quality, especially if we're being specific about like creating certain bedtime routines. So for example, bedtime is around, 8 to 8:30. We brush teeth before, bedtime. We have certain structures in place. It also improves focus and productivity and creates a sense of accomplishment because they're learning to identify that when you create and maintain routines, it helps you to feel like you've accomplished things. It's kind of like checking off items on a to-do list, right? I've got these things done. I've been successful in accomplishing these things. One of the other things that we wanted to talk about was mindfulness and self-care. So we are getting ready, and I'm sure lots of you parents are getting ready for this, week off that we have coming up, which is, the Thanksgiving break. The truth is school breaks and holidays, maybe even some family gatherings, can actually be a moment of intense stress or pressure for a lot of children and adults. Sometimes it's great, sometimes it's fun, but there's so much that is involved in the planning of activities and holidays. So it is important that part of our parenting strategies that we're using when we are practicing positive parenting includes our ability to check in on ourselves and recognize emotional triggers, not only in ourselves as adults, but also in our children, and have a plan of action in place for how we'll manage their feelings and our feelings. And these feelings can be feelings like frustration, when things don't go our way, when we're running behind on schedule, or when, we're feeling like we've fallen out of a routine. So mindfulness and self-care is very important. Yes.
Celeste, I have a question, please.
Yes.
I was an elementary school principal, and although we were very excited about going on break, We were also in partnership with that excitement. We were always, as an administrative team and my behavior management team, we were always kind of, I don't know if nervous is the right word, but we were getting prepared when we came back from our break time with students that we know had problems self-regulating or they had their own anxiety, because at the school site we had a lot of structure, as you know, any school does. And then when they would go home, the structure at home is different. And so that change from what they were used to from one week to the next and then coming back was really dysregulating for a lot of our students. What, especially coming into Thanksgiving break next week, what can our parents do to help their students who might have anxiety, who might get dysregulated from that switch in the routine? What can they do to help their students cope with that both this next week and then also getting prepared to come back from break? And that question is for Celeste and any of our other experts here.
Yes, thank you. That's a great question. One of the best things we can do, and we'll actually get into this, is exercising mindfulness and self-care. So, coming from a place of having so much structure within the classroom setting, you get up at a certain time, you do X, Y, and Z within the school day, you're out by a certain time. The best thing we can try to do for our kids is to maintain a similar structure at home, right? When we're at home with them. So maybe we don't get up at 8 o'clock, right? Or at 7. You know, school starts for most of our children at 8:15. So maybe we don't get up at 7, but we try and make sure that we're up within that same time frame, that we're still doing things around that time. We still go to sleep around the same time. There's so much research that suggests that our children need at least 12 to 14 hours of sleep to really, really feel energized, refreshed, and reboot, you know, their chemical activity in their brains. And so for all of those reasons, it's so important that we're still maintaining. I know oftentimes we think, well, we're on break, we get to, you know, sleep in late, wake up early, you know, wake up late and sleep late, you know, those kinds of things. But it does actually end up creating, when we don't stick to a routine, it ends up creating more stress. And that's kind of what you were talking about that you're seeing with our children when they come back to the school setting, because there's a dysregulation with the scheduling. So routines are helpful in the sense that they make us feel secure and that we know what to expect, what's coming next, and you know how kind of our day will unfold and unravel. When we take that away, it does create a sense of anxiety and stress, because now I'm not sure what to expect in the future. I'm not sure, you know, what's coming next, and that can be a lot for young children, for sure.
Yeah.
So definitely making sure that we're maintaining a routine as close as possible to when they're at school. And that's just like eating times, waking up times, bedtimes.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. I can think of a specific student that's in my mind, because you know when we think of these, and I'm sure you all having been in this role for a while, you have kids in your mind that come up. So I'm thinking of one boy who I believe he was a fourth grade, and he had high levels of anxiety. And so what our school social worker at the time and our school psychologist, what they recommended was that our teacher put up the daily schedule and make sure that she go over it with this student every single morning. And so that he knew at 9 o'clock, we're going to do language arts. At 9:30, we had recess. And so he knew exactly what to expect. And then when there was deviation, because, you know, things happen, and especially in classrooms, things are very fluid and flexible. She was able to kind of front load him and talk to him as to why. And that was really able to bring down his anxiety. And then on the back end, he was able to be happier at school. He stopped being as absent as often, because he had this high level of anxiety where he didn't even want to come to school. And that was a way to really help him. And so thank you for that. I completely echo just having that structure. So appreciate that.
Yes, absolutely, of course. All right. So mindfulness, just a brief definition for those of us who maybe might not be too familiar with what it is. It's the practice of being aware of what we're feeling and sensing in the present moment without judgment or interpretation. This is very helpful for people who are very anxious, because a lot of the times what happens when we're anxious is we're aware that, there's certain things going on, maybe physically in our body. So my heart might be palpitating really fast. I might be, using some shallow breathing. I'm aware that I have all these thoughts coming in my mind about fears of what might happen in the future or what I might mess up with, those kinds of things. And we tend to judge ourselves for those. Like, I shouldn't be thinking these, but I don't know. So mindfulness is being aware that, yes, I know that that feeling is there. I know that I'm sensing these things in my body. I'm just aware of it. I'm not going to judge it. I'm not going to try to interpret it. I'm just aware of it. And then self-care is a practice of taking care of your physical, mental, and emotional health. I kind of like to equate this to, like, we charge our phones at the end of the day or throughout the day to keep them, full of battery, right? The same is true with our emotional, mental, and physical health. We constantly have to be checking in on ourselves and making sure that we're recharging ourselves emotionally, mentally, and physical, because when that energy depletes, we can't be the kind of caregivers that we want to be for our kids. We can't be the type of, spouses, friend, we can't be available to other people if we've got nothing to pour out emotionally, mentally, or physically. Some ways that mindfulness and self-care are helpful is they help to reduce stress. They also reduce anxiety. Research suggests it reduces depression, decreases emotional reactivity, improves focus, boosts our working memory, increases immune functioning. It improves one's overall quality of life, and it helps us to cope better with difficult situations. We learn that even though we are facing a difficult situation, a difficult moment, we are capable of facing it when we practice some of these skills and some of these techniques. So I do want to share a technique. This is something that I love. I use with a lot of my students. I also like it myself. So, there's days where you've had such a tough day and you're like, I have to just take in a deep breath. So if you guys are willing, I'm going to play this video. It'll probably give us about 3 good, solid, deep breaths. We're going to practice some deep breathing. There will be a prompt that will come up on this video. We're going to be focused on what we're listening to and our breathing. So there is a triangle shape. When the triangle grows, we inhale nice and deep. As the triangle shrinks, we're going to exhale. Let's practice some deep breathing. So we notice it's not a very long video and it's super easy to find on YouTube. Something that I like to use for times where you're in a pinch thinking, I'm not even sure, I can't even really guide myself through taking some deep breaths. A guided video like this can be very helpful to help our littles, our teenagers, our adolescents, even ourselves, kind of regulate ourselves and be mindful in the moment. So here's
That
some
was
examples.
wonderful. Thank you. I'm sorry to interrupt you. Just want to say that was great. I already feel a little bit calmer, more regulated. I want to maybe tap in our director, Miss Michelle Sebastian, to help me with a question. So Miss Yadira Duran Banwan was asking about school psychologists and said, how can we obtain that support for our students? So what I would suggest, Miss Duran Banwan, is if you have a specific concern for your child, reach out to your school's counselor, your school principal, confer with them, let them know, here's what I'm seeing. You say, hey, in this presentation, we talked about the supports that we have through the BCBAs and the ERMs and the school psychs, and it's all student by student. So talk with them. And then they, along with you, can come up with a plan on how to support your child, who to kind of tap into to support your child. Miss Sebastian, Director Sebastian, is there something else you'd like to add? Or
No, I think you covered it, Dr. Cisnero. Yes, I think the key is, reach out to your school site, reach out to site administrators, even your classroom teacher, because every school site has a school psychologist assigned there. So I think if there's any concerns, or even if you just really want to know kind of how does a school psychologist support the school site and how can they support my student, the best person to be able to answer that would be site administration, or even contacting your classroom teacher. Or your
Beautiful.
student's classroom teacher.
Thank you, Director Sebastian. Sorry about that, Ms. Quintero.
Oh, no problem. No problem. So yes, so deep breathing is an exercise we just did. Other ones include like guided progressive muscle relaxation. We call that PMR for short in therapy. And really that focuses on incorporating breathing techniques in addition to muscle tension and relaxation. So it's being aware of when we're tensing and releasing the tension in our muscles. And the reason why that is helpful is because oftentimes when we are anxious, we're already tensing our muscles without even being aware of it. So remember, mindfulness is being aware of what am I experiencing in my body? What kinds of thoughts am I having? And what feelings am I feeling? So it's being aware of that so that we can manage that a little better. Other things include grounding techniques. And I do have an exercise that I'd like to do with everyone in just a little bit. So we'll get to see what that feels like and what that looks like. Number 4 is body scan meditation. These are things that we can look up on YouTube. I like to kind of type in guided body scan meditation, 1 minute, just to try it out. I also like to focus on the tone of voice that I'm listening to. If I'm feeling very anxious and I'm needing to kind of just calm myself down. So that's also important. And then focusing on sounds, sensations, thoughts, feelings, and actions that happen in the present moment. That is a key to mindfulness. This activity is actually a grounding exercise. It's about 5 minutes long, but if you guys would humor me, I'd love to do this together so that we can try out what it's like to ground ourselves, to practice focusing on the 5 senses, which include our sight, our hearing, our touch, sense of smell, and sense of taste.
Ever feel like your brain's stuck in a constant loop? Like everyone's talking and fast forward while you're stuck on rewind? Yeah, the pressure of today's world can leave anyone feeling overwhelmed. But hey, guess what? It's okay to slow down, unplug, and take a break. In fact, it's not just okay, it's essential. You need your downtime to recharge and rebuild. Enter the world of grounding techniques. These are simple exercises that help bring yourself back to the present. Like hitting pause on screen. Here, let's pause together with the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 exercise. Get in a comfortable position and close your eyes. Follow my voice and take 3 controlled breaths. Start with a deep breath through your nose to fill your stomach with air. Hold it for 3, 2, 1. Let it go. Now take another deep breath through your nose to fill your chest with air. Follow my count and then release through your mouth. 3, 2, 1. Let it go. Now let's do that again for 6 counts. Breathe. Hold for 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Open your eyes. Now look at the screen. What do you see? Pick 5 things that you like. What color are they? Are they moving or are they static? What do you like about them? Now look away from the screen and pay attention to your surroundings. Notice 4 things that you can feel. Things like the temperature of the room or the texture of the place where you're sitting or fabric of your clothes. Touch the world around you, literally and figuratively. It's a reminder that you're here, you're safe, and you're in control. Keep breathing softly. Now notice 3 things that you can hear. Now focus on your sense of smell. Notice 2 things that you can smell. What does the air smell like? Where are the smells coming from? Don't judge them, just Notice them. Now take one deep breath. Breathe in and hold for 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale. Well, thanks for doing that with me. Now that you know how to do the exercise, you can do it anytime, anywhere. Grounding skills aren't just for freakouts. They're tools for everyday life. Feeling stressed before a test? Grounding can help you focus. Nervous about starting something? Grounding can ease your anxiety. Grounding techniques are your own personal oasis of calm amidst the daily hustle. So next time your brain feels like it's in a constant loop, remember you have the power to hit the pause button, take a breath, and notice the world around you.
So I love that video because it talks about hitting the pause button, which oftentimes we need, especially when we're coming up on like, a break, a change in our routine, right? Taking some time, being kind to ourselves, kind of like we do with positive parenting, and understanding that it's normal to feel these feelings and we can take some time out of our, daily routine to reset and refocus ourselves. Examples of self-care include, remember, self-care is being able to kind of recharge our emotional battery, our physical battery, and our mental battery, right? So doing things that we enjoy, that make us happy, that make us feel energized. So these might not all be helpful for everyone, right? They might not all be something that we all like to do, but they're just ideas, and we can kind of pick and choose which ones work for each and every one of us. So going for a walk, journaling, listening to inspirational, calming, or pleasurable music, spending time in nature, getting enough sleep, super important. Making sure we're drinking enough water and staying hydrated, eating a balanced diet, making sure we're not missing meals, right? So important. Exercising. It can be so many things. It can be going to a movie, going to a concert, spending time with family, those that we, feel like they recharge us and they energize us. So those are examples of self-care.
Okay, thank you, Celeste, for that wonderful presentation and those breathing techniques. I think everybody needed it after a long day. Okay, so for those of you who missed the introductions, my name is Sarah Anderson. I'm a BCBA.
And my name is Daisy Ramirez. I'm also one of the district's behavior analyst BCBAs.
Mhm. And so we're going to be talking about some strategies that you guys can implement during this time while the kids are home. The first thing we're going to talk about are antecedent strategies. Antecedent strategies, in short, are just proactive things that you can do to avoid the behavior from occurring. But these are also things that will help increase the appropriate behavior that we were trying to teach or trying to maintain. So one thing we can do is priming. Priming is just a fancy word for saying, letting them know ahead of time of what's going to happen. So an example would be if we're going on break next week, a parent would say, okay, well, next week we're on vacation from Monday through Friday. We're not going to school. We're going to be home. So just letting them know ahead of time what's to come.
And then also this goes based on kind of goes back to what Miss Celeste mentioned earlier, that we want to prepare the students, right? Because they do have a routine here at school. But now next week and even next month, we're going to have those longer breaks. So students at school have a structured setting, right? They go to school at a certain time, at the same time all the time, and then they end their day at the same time every time. They go to class, they have their, their routine that they do every day. But now we're going to talk about, well, what's going to happen when the kids are out, for those breaks. So we want to make sure that we are trying to provide the student with those structures again. And I know it's going to look a little different, right? Because the student is not at school, but it's very important that the student, again, like Miss Celeste said, have them go to sleep roughly around the same time, maybe get up around the same time, and then provide them with strategies that we're going to go over. So on our next slides, we're going to go into a little bit more detail on the priming strategies and the token economy strategies. So the first one we're going to talk about is the priming strategy. This is to let them know what is expected, prepare them for change within their routine, remind them of what is occurring. And there's two types of priming. We have visual priming and then we have auditory priming. How does that look like? So for visual priming is sometimes it's a little bit difficult when we want your child, your student to do something, right? Your child to do something. So we, instead of just asking them or demanding them to do something, and if you know it's going to be something non-preferred, we want to prime them. How does that look like when we say, Johnny, in 5 minutes, we will be done watching TV, and then we're going to do something else. So you want to make sure that we are consistent with letting them know what's to come. At least I know with myself, I like to know what is my next thing to do or my routine, right? Instead of someone just letting me know, oh, you can't watch TV anymore, turn it off, right? Because the kids are going to be at home. So they're going to be wanting to watch TV. They're going to want to be on their tablets. They're going to be wanting to do things that they can't normally do in the school setting, right? So if you do plan to remove these objects or these electronics that are very preferred to them, let's prime them and just let them know that this particular item will no longer be available after 5 minutes or 10 minutes or just giving them a time. So this could be, as it mentioned here, it could be verbal priming or it could be auditory priming. So it's, or you can, for those little younger kiddos, it could also even be a picture, a picture that we show them. Do you want to add anything else?
Just to touch base specifically on like removing the electronics, since it's such a highly preferred item, a good tip would be, if you know you're going to be removing a highly preferred item, a good tip is to provide alternatives that are just as preferred as those, as close as you can. That way your student is aware, like, okay, even though I'm getting this taken away, I still have options. And so that's going to ultimately teach them coping strategies in the future. Okay, so next we have token economy. Token economies are used to provide reinforcement to increase the appropriate behavior. So the idea behind this is if you caught your student or your child doing something appropriate or like maybe asking instead of screaming, we would typically provide them reinforcement, right? Well, let's say the reinforcement was candy, and they asked 20 times a day. Reinforcing them 20 Jolly Ranchers is probably not healthy. So that's why we have token boards. So token boards will kind of act in their place as a reinforcement. And ultimately, however many icons you have that they need to earn will equal the result of like whatever it is that you want them to have reinforcement for. So if we look at the picture below, it's like they need to take 5 bites and then they'll get ice cream. So ultimately reinforcing them with ice cream for every instant is going to be a lot. So when they earn 5, they just get a whole bowl of ice cream, which is a lot more healthier and realistic for you guys.
And this is something that I know parents usually struggle with. How can I get my son to eat, right? Or how can I get my daughter to eat? They're not eating anything or they don't want to eat. So this is also a way of being able to reinforce the students' appropriate behavior of taking those bites. And I added those two pictures because it doesn't have to be a picture card looking pretty with little tokens. It could just be on a piece of paper, just making your little squares and then just letting them know, Johnny, let's take a bite. After 5 bites, then you can get your candy, right? So first bite, check off. Second bite, check off. Third bite, check off. So this is just a way of having them do something that you would want them to engage in. And then there's a prize or reinforcement after.
Okay, providing choices. So just like I mentioned earlier, if you're gonna take away something highly preferred, be prepared for that by offering them something else. That's one way of using choices. Another way too is if let's say they wanted a certain cereal or a certain food item and you guys ran out. We can provide them with choices of other ones that they can use. The visual we have here is basically like a simplified choice board. So those are all the items that are available that you guys are also willing to give them access to if they were to choose it. So when coming up with the choice board or even providing choices, make sure that all the choices in the event that they were to pick it are available to them immediately. Also, if you provide choices by your student, I'm sorry, your child being able to select an option, that also gives them a sense of like control and decision making on their own.
Thank you, sir. And that's exactly what I was going to add as
Mhm.
well. Having them providing them with choices and having them picked from a choice, it's kind of like working with the student, right? Or with your child. Fine, sometimes it gets a little bit difficult if you just give them the one choice and this is all you can do, and I'm mom and I'm right and I'm always going to do it right. But if you provide them with choices, it's still going to be those choices that you want the student to engage in, or be able to pick from, but you're letting the student know, look, you can pick from any one of these. Which one would you like? So that's just a way of negotiating with the child and not being very strict as in providing them with one choice only.
So that draws me to think of like my parents and their parenting style. And I know that maybe a lot of us who aren't young people anymore, we were raised by parents who a lot of times would tell us like, here's what you're gonna do and why, because I said so, because I'm the parent, because these are my house, my rules. Where's the balance between providing choices, but also, providing that firmness for students?
So a good example would be so if the student didn't want any of those choices, we would just say, well, these are the only options. You can either get this or this. State it one more time. Repeating it multiple times is not going to help. So I would say maybe once or twice. And then, let them know ultimately, like if you don't decide within however much time, then I can decide for you, or you can just do nothing until you decide what you want. Yeah.
Got it. Thank you.
Mhm.
And then I just want to highlight something that was put into the chat by Eva. She asks, can the school provide visuals like these if they're requested by parents? My response is absolutely. Reach out to your school's counselor. You can also reach out to our mental health specialist teams. They can provide you these different options. These are also just readily available online if you Google, but if you would like a couple of different choices and maybe somebody to walk you through how to use them and give you these tips, absolutely reach out to your child's school.
And that's correct, Dr. Cisneros. What he said, we can definitely provide you with visuals or anything that you may need to help you during this transition on these extended breaks, because it could be a little difficult. But there's also those resources online that you can easily find. But we do have our behavior team that can definitely help out with that. So if you need any type of visual, any simple visual, we can definitely get those out to you.
All right. First then, AKA Grandma's Law. This is just basically, again, letting them know ahead of time what's to come, right? So if you know that transitioning from the home to going to the store is going to be a pretty big deal, I would let them know, like, okay, first we're going to get our clothes on and put on our shoes, and then we're going to go to the store. Now, I know this is Thanksgiving week, and so the stores are probably going to be crazy, and you guys are probably going to run from store to store, different places, all in one shopping trip. So what we can do is even break those down into just 2 steps at a time. So a good example could be, okay, first we put on our shoes, then we go to the car. Then once you get in the car, okay, we're going to drive to Stater Brothers. And then after, we're going to whichever store you're going to do. The idea of this is basically to lessen the chances of overwhelming a child. I mean, even for us, right? If somebody were to just say like, oh, I need you to do this, 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 and this, and we're going to go here, that would definitely cause a lot of anxiety and, potentially like behaviors. So by just keeping it simplified, this is what we're doing now, then you're going to get this. It's a lot simpler and it's easier for the student to understand, what is expected of them in that moment.
Yeah, and this is also can be done verbally. So we can tell the student or your child, okay, first we're gonna put your shoes on, then you can get this other thing, or a demand, right? So usually it's a demand that they don't like, or an activity that they don't want to do, or first you're gonna jump in the shower, because I know that's something that happens often at home where kids don't want to do certain things like brushing teeth, showering, right? Getting dressed. So first you do this, then you get your reward. first you do this, then you get that. So we're just breaking it down to making it so much easier. There's no need of reinforcing several things. It's just the one thing and then the next one. And again, this could be done verbally, or it could be done simple as this example that we have here, the picture, the first then with a paper and pen.
Okay, so now let's talk about reinforcement. So what can we do when we catch our children doing the appropriate behaviors that we want to see? We have the first one, edibles. So this is just basically anything that you can give them that they can eat, that they prefer. Now keep in mind, and you guys have total control over this. If you're going to use candy as a reinforcer, make sure that you're okay with being able to give them that candy throughout the whole day. So just keep in mind like which kinds of edibles you're offering. And if you are going to switch it up, then again, letting them know that first then, or letting them know ahead of time what's to come at, the certain time that you decide to switch. The other one is social. So this is more of like a naturalistic type of reinforcer. So if your children look to you for praise and, want to see you happy for them, that's something you can do. Is just if you catch them sitting on the couch and they're not jumping on the couch, you might want to praise them then, like, hey, good job sitting calmly on the couch, and hope that it stays that way, right? The next one would be an activity. So activities are basically just things that they can attend to, right? So that could be maybe going out to the park, maybe bike riding, shopping, playing with their friends, having playtime, free time, things like that. Sensory, these are just objects that they can manipulate that will, adhere or
That make you feel good.
Yes.
Yeah. So sometimes some students may need some type of like a sensory need or have a sensory need. So it just really depends if your child, if they like visual stimulation, maybe a little toy that has lights that goes around, or maybe there's also those students that that need to touch something or have something in their hand. So this is another type of reinforcement where you provide them with something that makes them feel good. I know for me, I'm very sensory based. So for me, something that feels good and is a great reinforcer is for me to touch something that makes me feel good. So these are just different types of reinforcers.
Yeah, and last but not least are tangibles. Those are just basically items, highly preferred items that you can give them once they've done the behavior of choice. All right, next.
I have a quick question before we move on. I want to highlight what Catalina has written into the chat. She says, do you think it's okay to have our kids having a reward when they have to do things? So the way I understand that question, Catalina, please feel free to expand if I didn't capture it correctly. If there's
Can I open my mic to explain it?
Sure, yeah, please go ahead.
I feel that if we are rewarding our kids for every little thing that they do right, it puts in their mind like, oh, I'm gonna do this, and I'm gonna get rewarded. And I feel like to me, it's like, hey, you know what? You have to shower because then you're gonna smell. And if he goes in the shower, I don't reward him with anything. But oh, good job, buddy. You did go in the shower. Or hey, come on, let's brush our teeth. Why do I have to? I don't want to brush my teeth. Well, your bed's gonna smell. I try to make it more like it's a life, like that's something you have to do on a daily basis, and for them to know that they have to do it and not get rewarded for every little thing that they do. I mean, I do reward my child when he goes like a full day to school, because I have trouble with him staying at school a full day or actually getting up in the morning. So for that, I do reward him. But for normal things that he has to do on a daily, I try not to reward him because I feel like the kids get used to it. And mentally, they're going to think they deserve a reward every time they do something right. And I feel that's something that you have to put in their head, that it's something that you have to do on a daily. Like it's something, like it's a lifestyle that you're doing. Like you have to shower, you have to brush your teeth, you have to pick up after yourself, you have to eat your food. I do give them electronics after they do homework, or if they read a book, I tell them, how long did you read the book for? 20 minutes. Okay, then it's 20 minutes with your electronic. Like I try to do it evenly, but I don't reward for every little thing that they do, because I feel it affects them growing up.
It's a good point, Catalina. Let's hear from our experts. What do you think?
So that is a very valid question, and a lot of parents do ask us that. So if we were to delve more into it, typically what we would do is for new behaviors or behaviors that your child doesn't really display so much of, we want to reinforce them at a rate of like 1, right? So they do it, we give it to them. Eventually, we want to fade out the 1-to-1 to maybe like they do 2 things, then we do 1 reinforcement, or maybe like you could do 10 things first, then we'll give it. So ultimately, it's going to be up to you guys. If it's a new skill that you haven't seen your child do before, I would highly recommend we reinforce that every single time. The idea behind it is to make the students feel like their goal is achievable, right? Like the act of showering is achievable, because if he just walked into the shower and we're like, hey, good job walking into the shower, he's going to realize, oh, like I got praise or I got this just for walking in the shower. Okay, then they're going to want to do it naturally, right? Then we can start to increase the expectation. So like, okay, well, you'll get ice cream if I see you independently walk in the shower and wash your hair and rinse everything off, right? So then we're just slowly decreasing the amount of rewards we're giving them. And then also at the same time, and this is where it kind of gets a little complex, but at the same time, we're also transferring the motivation to get like ice cream to something more natural. Like you were mentioning, Catalina, you stink, you need to take a shower. So naturally, that would be a natural reinforcer eventually, as he learns that smell around other people is like it's a thing, right? So naturally, he'll be like, okay, I need a shower because I don't want to go to school tomorrow and have my friends tell me I'm stinky. So that's how.
So Miss Anderson, are you kind of saying that eventually you would want the student to be able to learn the skill or take a shower without being reinforced? Is that what you're saying?
Without being reinforced by, I guess, obviously like giving them something. So what I mean by, they're always going to be reinforced by something. So in this case, we want to fade out, I guess, the unnatural reinforcers. So like objects, items, activities, everything we just talked about, to more natural ones. So that could even just be like what Catalina said. Good job, buddy. Thanks for taking a shower. And then eventually she won't have to say anything, because the natural reinforcement would be him not having to hear his friends complain about his smell.
So the key point is in the beginning, when we want to decrease a behavior and increase in more appropriate behavior. In the beginning, we do want to reinforce constantly, every time, all the time. Eventually, after some time, we do decrease that reinforcement, that those that praise or the objects or the items. The point is for to extend it and to also be able to fade out that reinforcement. But in the beginning, if we do know that it's a behavior that we do want to change at the moment, it's very important that we are very consistent on reinforcing so that they understand.
And so Miss Catalina, I think one thing that we can also kind of share too is that what you described is 100% on target and on point. So you shared that, things like going and taking a shower are regular routine things that your kiddo is already able to do. And so every once in a while you may be like, hey, I'm glad you hopped in the shower really quickly, but they don't really need additional layers of reinforcement beyond that. So they don't need to earn something just for doing that, because it's something they already do. But there are often things that our kiddos have a hard time doing. Like you shared, your kiddo being able to stay at school for the whole day is something that is hard for your kiddo. And so sometimes we have to layer on a little bit extra so that our kiddos are motivated to kind of exert that extra effort. And so especially over the breaks too, or even at home, those are things that we sometimes have to identify. So what are those things that are kind of hard or tricky for your kiddo? And then trying to figure out what would motivate them for that. And it doesn't always have to be a very like super rigid, structured system. It might be something like, hey, you know what, this week, if that you're off, I want you to read for like 10 minutes every day. And if you're reading for 10 minutes every day, then on Friday, we're heading to the park, or we're going to go to the movies, or what have you. Or if you keep your room clean this week, then this is what we're going to do. And so whatever it is that kind of motivates your kids, because some kids, it's getting a new toy or Others, like the teenagers, it might be time out with their friends, or getting, any of the like electronic money that they get for all of the games and apps and things that they do on their phones. Like there's a wide variety of what kind of motivates our kids. I think the biggest thing is that for all of us, is that we have to have something that motivates us to keep it going, especially for those things that are challenging, right? And so it's like, if I have a trip planned to, some tropical island or whatever, I'm really motivated to work out and exercise because I want to, look perfect when I go on my tropical vacation. And so that makes me more motivated to do it. But other times, if I don't have that motivation, if it's winter time and I'm not really needing to be bathing suit ready, I may not be as motivated to work out. And so the same thing for our kids is that when we have those things that are more of a challenge for our kids, that's when we probably need to look a little bit more closely at how we're reinforcing them and what we can do to motivate them. For the things that they already do, then every once in a while, hey, good job, or I'm so glad you did that on your own, or I didn't even have to ask you to do that, is perfect because they don't need all of that extra.
Yes, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And then using reinforcement effectively. How do we use reinforcement effectively? We ensure the reinforcer is motivating, right? So if we're gonna give a certain reinforcer, we want to make sure that the student or your son or daughter really like that object or thing that they're working for. Use high quality reinforcers for more difficult tasks. So if it's something, if they absolutely just love using their tablet, and you're going to put the tablet aside and only use the tablet when you're trying to get them to do something, a task that requires a little bit more effort, that's a little bit more difficult to do. Use a variety of reinforcement and change it around. Sometimes not changing the reinforcer may cause more harm. And why I say that is they might get over it. They might not want to do it anymore because we're using the same reinforcer. It loses its potential to be able to work for that particular task. And it should be given within 0 to 3 seconds. So immediacy is the best way to do it. As soon as a student is, or your child is able to comply and is able to do the desired task that you want them to do, reinforce them right away to make sure that they understand that because they did A, they get B. If we delay it, you can at a later time once they understand the reward system, but in the beginning, you always want to make sure that you provide them that reinforcer right away. And also the very, very most important thing is be consistent. Consistency is everything. Making sure that that we're definitely reinforcing the student every single time in the beginning if it's a new skill, and be consistent all the time with reinforcement.
Yeah, and just to add on top of that, the reason why we say 0 to 3 seconds is essentially because, let's say Timmy asked for a cookie appropriately, right? And right after that, because the cookie wasn't handed quick enough, he starts to scream asking for it. So if you waited longer than that and he screamed, you've just reinforced the screaming behavior versus the asking appropriately behavior. So in the event, and this happens sometimes too, where the kids are just so quick. If they did appropriately ask for something, and then as you're giving it to them, they engage in behavior, I would just withhold that until they can either calm down or at least ask appropriately again, then give it to them. You always want to give them the reinforcer on the behavior you want to see. And that's
Thank
it. And then here are just some resources for everyone to have if you wanted more information on positive parenting and mental health.
Beautiful. And I will be, just for our parents to know, these videos or these conversations are always recorded. They're hosted on our alvordschools.org family engagement page, but they're also hosted on our YouTube. And then the PowerPoint slide decks are also made available so that our parents, if they want to go back through the triangle breathing, if they want to go back through any portion of the presentation slide deck itself, you have access to. You basically hit it right on the money. We're at 5:59, but right before we end off, I'd like to open up the floor for any of our families. Does anybody have any lingering questions, something that maybe wasn't addressed by our panel? Well, hearing none, then I want to say thank you for our BCBAs, our ERM specialist, for being here and providing us this fantastic dialogue. It got really good. The questions that came up, especially thank you, Catalina, for really challenging us with that question. Like, I hear what you're saying, but is this really the right way of doing it? We really appreciate that exchange. So for our families who posted in the chat that you really want maybe a little bit more support. I know one of our family members said school psychologist. Somebody else said, I need help with those behavior charts. Please reach out to your school principal, your school's counselor. If you don't really know where to start, reach out to your child's teacher and they can help you. So thank you to our panel of experts tonight. Thank you to our director, Michelle Sebastian, for making this possibility. And as always, we can't do this. We can't do any of the work that we do at a high quality level without Yvonne and the entire interpretation team and our EL services office. Everybody have a good night. We'll see you in 2 weeks for our next dialogue.